Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. I have been vibrating ever since I got notifications that they made the Tri-Horned Dragon retrain. It's probably not a retrain in the sense that it gets its own archetype. It is part of the Memento theme, it looks like, that's coming out for the next deck build pack, Valiant Smashers, but that's more than enough to get me excited. Now, this technically isn't a first look. I did dip a little bit and see all of the images, so I know that all the monsters are skeletal versions of previous normal monsters, but whenever archetypes do that, I love it even more. So the fact that Tri-Horned Dragon gets to be part of that whole cycle, it's so exciting. I love it so much. I can't wait to get into it. I see that their big boss is some kind of worm monster, but I'm skipping past this reveal. We are going immediately to this. Cards you forgot, everything you left on the roadside, it all comes back for revenge. Ooh. It's noted in addition to the usual rarity patterns, 3 cards will get quarter century secret rares. Cool. Okay, big, no, one second, we'll get to try on in a second. Okay, so, the big boss is Mementoral Tectolica, the Nether Skull Dragon. Okay, sick, level 11 earthworm monster, 5,000 attack and defense, so that's a game ender. Can't be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand or graveyard by shuffling 5 other Memento monsters with different names from your hand and or grave into the deck or extra deck. Huh. If you control no other monsters, this card can attack all your opponent's monsters once each. And once per turn, if your opponent activates a card or effect, you can special summon a Memento monster from your hand or graveyard. Okay, so that's weird, because you're shuffling monsters back from those zones to even summon this thing in the first place, and then when your opponent activates stuff, you get a free Memento. That's already seems a little off. Maybe the rest of the effects will be a lot of throwing stuff into the graveyard. We'll see about that one. Okay. Next up, Memento Horn Dragon, level 8, Dark Dragon, 2850 attack, 2350 defense. Folks, we have been waiting for this day for centuries, and while the true retrain is still just over the horizon, this is good for things to come. You can only special summon with the first effect once per turn, and you can use the second effect once per turn. If you have 3 or more Memento monsters with different names in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is on the field, if this card on the field is destroyed by card effect, you can target 3 face-up cards on the field, including at least 1 Memento card you control, and destroy them. This is a remake of Tri-Horned Dragon, you bet it is! Oh my god! I didn't even see the stat line, just like the posing is like, that's my boy. I know that's my boy. So, if this, hey Moby, how's it going? So, you summon it if you have 3 or more different Mementos in your graveyard. Summon from your hand for free. This card on the field is destroyed by a card effect. You target any 3 face-up cards on the field, including at least a Memento card you control. So when it's destroyed by card effect, it also is an Icarus attack, / I guess Rise of the Snake Deity is a better way to put that. Okay. I guess we'll move on to the next one, because I don't see a lot of, verve coming out of this one. Memento Tatsunou Toshigo, the weird horse with the big old tongue, is now in a level 5 Earth Beast Effect monster. If you control no face-up monsters other than Memento monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. But I guess you need to have a Memento. No, it can be if you have no monsters too, I think. During your main phase, you can destroy a Memento monster you control, and if you do, send any number of Memento monsters with different names whose total levels are equal to or lower than the destroyed monster's original level from your deck to the graveyard. Okay, so I suppose you want to pop Tri-Horned Dragon because they have the biggest level out of all of them. That's 8, I'm getting real quick, so that's 5, 3, 1, and 1. So you could send a Tatsunoko... It's not Tatsunoko. Tatsunotsu Shigo. Oh, goodness. And Fairy Witch. They have to have different names. So, It's equal to or lower, so at the very least it doesn't have to match up exactly, but at least it's this loads up cards in your graveyard, and then it triggers Memento Horn Dragon to do some stuff. Okay. Memento Fairy Witch, level 3 Dark Spellcaster. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Memento monster from your deck to your hand. And you can target a level 2 or lower Memento monster in your graveyard. Destroy a Memento monster you control, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster. Okay. So it's our Stratos. Could search us immediately, our Horsefish. Or Memento Horn Dragon to get that special summoned. And then it can summon the other 2 by popping one we control, including this one. So there's that. Let's hope the level 2 or lower ones are really good. Memento Mace. Level 1 Light Fairy monster, 400 attack, 300 defense. During your opponent's main phase, if you control Mementoral Tectolica, the Nether Skull Dragon, it's a quick effect. You can discard this card, target a face-up monster your opponent controls. Take control of it until the end phase. Only opponent's turn, though, so we don't get to really use it. During your main phase, you can destroy 1 Memento monster you control, and if you do, add a Memento card from your deck to your hand. Okay, so that's kind of like a repeatable version of what Fairy Witch does. Alright. Memento Goblin. During the main phase, if you control our big bungler, you can discard this card. Your opponent can't target Memento monsters you control with card effects this turn. Okay, that's weird because it's during the main phase, so you can't activate it during draw or standby. And if it's your opponent's turn, they get to do something. And then if it's not something that targets us, we can chain Memento Goblin. But then if what they want to target us with is a quick effect speed, then they have a chance to do that. I'm not too thrilled about that. Moby, please. Moby's leaning on my hand. He wants pets. Here we go. There we go. There's some pets. During your main phase, you can destroy Memento. Now he's just moving the screen. During your main phase, you can destroy Memento monster you control, and if you do, send with 2 Memento cards with different names from each other from your deck to the graveyard. 2 Memento cards with different names. So it can send our spells and traps, but it can also send our monsters, except other copies of this card. Did this require monsters or all cards? Memento. Okay, this requires Memento monsters, so we can't cheat it by sending our spells and traps to graveyard. Okay, so looking at the monsters so far, I'm not really impressed. I guess the idea is that a 5,000 multi-attacker is enough to close out a game, and so the deck is built around that, and everything else is just kind of meant to facilitate that, but I don't know. Maybe the spells and traps will get this figured out. Okay, Nether Skull Temple Mementorin. Mementoring. Mojito. If your Memento monster battles, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards till the end of the damage step, so we're all Ancient Gears while this is on the field. If a monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one of them, special summon a Memento monster with a lower level from your hand or graveyard, and once per turn during the end phase, you can target a Memento spell or trap card and set it. Okay, so this will just keep getting us our Memento spells and trap cards every turn, so we get a little value out of this. This replacement effect triggers when any of our monsters are destroyed. It only summons monsters with a lower level, but we have some pretty low-leveled ones, so that's not too terrible. And then, of course, ways to stop spells and traps. Kind of sucks it doesn't stop monsters. They're not true Armades, as they're Ancient Gears, but I guess we'll take what we can get stapled onto our recursion engine. Memento Bone Party. Folks, I'm going to the Memento Bone Party. Destroy 1 Memento monster in your hand or face up on the field, and if you do, take a Memento monster with a different name from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position. It does not care about levels on this one, so we can hit anything with this and get value. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target a Memento monster you control. Its attacks, it deals piercing battle damage. Okay, so we're meant to use this to get stuff into rotation. You know, it puts a Memento into our graveyard, so it helps summon our big dude. It gets, like, we can get Fairy Witch for the search. We can summon Tats to help fill up our graveyard. We can get Memento Horn Dragon to pop some cards or facilitate popping some cards at some point. And then once that's in there, we give our big bungler piercing damage and it attacks a whole bunch of stuff and wins us the game. Okay. Memento Bone Back. Folks, I'm going to Memento Bone Back. If a face-up Memento monster you control leave the field by your opponent, special summon a big bungler from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Okay, so that's a way to get it out without having to necessarily do its regular summon, though the issue is that it has to be our opponent. We can't trigger this, and it has to be Oh, but if it leaves the field by your opponent, so it could be anything, as long as it's not like the... Maybe it is anything, because it's not like... Because it's leaving the field. A monster's effect when it goes back to the extra deck isn't going to trigger, but if it goes back... If it leaves the field, but something is tracking it from somewhere else, that might actually activate. So actually, that's not too terrible. And if your opponent moves a Memento monster... If your opponent moves a Memento monster out of your graveyard while this card is in the grave, you can banish this card, special summon as many Memento monsters with different names as possible from your hand and or deck. What is that effect? What is that effect? What are they doing with that? So, what? It's some kind of anti-called by the grave? What other things are they... Is it like if they bestial your graveyard, you can use Bone Back to get, like, not the card that's banished, but, like, as many other things as possible. It gets from the deck, so at least you can't interrupt that one, so that's pretty cool. Okay. That's kind of funky. Next is Memento Fracture Dance. Ooh, that's a cool name for a card. Normal trap card. If you control a Memento monster, target one card on the field, destroy it. Then, if you control the Big Bungler, you can destroy one more card on the field. When an attack is declared involving a Memento monster and an opponent's monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard. All face-up monsters your opponent currently controls lose 1,000 attack until the end phase. Okay, so this is another one of the things that helps our big monster win the game. If they have less attack power, we deal more damage when we attack into their attack position once. So yeah, it's just, if we have Memento, it's spot removal, and then it's an extra if we have our big boss monster. That's okay, I guess. Oh, especially if we can keep resetting this with our field spell, so at the end of our turn. It's only to end during our end phase. But we get Fracture Dance. Fracture Dance is just like, we have a problem, we ping it off the board, get it out of here. That's not terrible. There's been worse cards. Last one is Memento Cranium Burst. Folks, I'm gonna Memento Cranium Burst. Your opponent's monsters must attack the Memento monster you control with the highest attack, if able, while you control any. When your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you can target a Big Bungler that you control. It loses exactly 1,000 attack and defense, and if it does, negate that effect. Okay. So it forces them to attack. So if you have Memento Horned Dragon, that's going to be a lot of damage if they don't have a big enough monster. And of course, if you have the big boss monster, of course, it's a 5,000 attacker. But those effects aren't super... I don't think they've ever really been super relevant. Oh, this effect is once per chain, not once per turn. So Mementoral can potentially be a 5-mat Appaloosa, is what we're looking at here. That's not too shabby, but we have to control the Big Bungler. So it's all going to depend on if we can send 5 Memento monsters with different names all at once. Now, what's getting me about Mementoral is that it says shuffling 5 other Memento monsters with different names from your hand and or grave into the deck or extra deck. Are there other Memento monsters that I haven't been made aware of? Are there? One second, I gotta. Sorry, folks. You're going on with me on an investigation here. We're gonna double check here. Are there Memento monsters that I'm unaware of? No? Okay. So it's not like there's some random other set of monsters out there that are Mementos. So that is implying 2 things. One, well, of course we aren't seeing all the Memento cards, right? They always do this. They release like all but one Memento card, or all but one of an archetype, and then they reveal the last one at a later date. So there's of course going to be an extra deck monster. I don't know if it's going to be a fusion or not, because we didn't see anything that facilitates fusion summoning. And the only same leveled monsters that we have are level 1s. So the only thing I can think of that they're going to add in is it's going to be a Memento Synchro monster. And I'm going to go off the cuff here and say that it's going to be Galaxy Serpent. That is the tuner. They're going to make a Memento Galaxy Serpent. Memento Serpent is what they're going to call it, because it's a normal monster, it's a tuner, and it's level 2, which falls under Fairy Witch's condition, where it summons level 2 or lower Memento monsters. It's doubly good because if it's reviving our Mementos, it'd be good to have a tuner we can bring back. So it's going to be that, and that means that there's not technically a normal synchro monster, but there are non-effect ones, and maybe that will suffice here. The question is, will it be Scrap Archfiend or Gaia Knight, the Force of Earth? And I think Gaia Knight is level 6, but Archfiend is level 7, so I think it's going to be a Memento Archfiend, and it's going to be, the idea is to tune it with the Seahorse, and that's how we get it. So that implies that we're going to need 2 more. Unless any of these are a tuner, and I didn't notice it. They didn't make any of these randomly a tuner. I don't see it. No. Okay. Other random synergies here. The big monster is a worm, but I don't know if having our big monster being a worm really matters for anything. We have darks, lights, earths, dragon, beast, a whole bunch of different stat spreads. So, I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I'm very excited that we have a Tri-Horned card. Like, the fact that that was acknowledged, A+, I'm going to be excited for that no matter what. Don't take that away from this. But as, like, an archetype, I'm not super excited for this. Everything feels like it's just centered on being able to summon Mementoral, and big battle boss monsters have so... Like, they've seen some level of success, right? Like, things like... Crusadia, towering up with that one. You can just auto-win sometimes by using things like, oh, we'll just kaiju you, and I'll just clear over you with 1,000,000 damage. But if I'm going to play a deck like that, I think I'd rather play Crusadia, because all of that, like, stacks up into a single monster that continually searches you cards, whereas Mementoral feels like it's going to be a lot of work to get 5 of these things into the graveyard, right? Like... The only one that has a big, like, dump a card into the graveyard is the horse. And obviously, like, the horse can pop itself and send Fairy Witch and Memento Mace and Goblin. So that's 4 names. It's not 5 names, though. So that one, like there's other things you have to rely on to get this off the ground. This is, of course, not a very strong going first deck, because we want to just be able to smash face with this. There are options for going first. Bone, Fracture Dance, and Cranium Burst give you ways to interact with your opponent if you're able to set up on your own turn. Boneback is fantastic. Holy cow. It's like, if your opponent interacts with you in almost any way, Boneback is going to show up and be all like, actually, you lose now. I'm going to bury you in advantage. The issue is that, like, the monsters that we're summoning with Boneback aren't immediately getting you value, right? Like, if they move a card out of our graveyard, right, with the fact that they... that's the condition. This Exo-Sister looking effect over here. The fact that they have that going on in here to summon a monster that has an effect in the hand, whose on-field effect isn't going to do much if it's your opponent's turn. Mace, same thing. In-hand effect, so it's not going to get you that. And this does something on your own turn, which that's probably not going to trigger Boneback's Grave effect during your own turn. It's probably going to be your opponent's turn, if they're going to do anything. Though that's not true. Now that I think about it, normally you are doing stuff like that on your opponent's turn. If you're trying to Bestial, you'd like to get the value by summoning it on your opponent's turn, so you have it all on your field on your turn. And Call by the Grave, obviously, is really strong if you're, like... obviously, it can be used to push through stuff if it's your own turn going through stuff, but it's your opponent's turn, it can keep them off some certain things, so that's kind of a hit or miss on that one. I don't know. I don't think that Memento is positioned to be the power archetype out of Valiant Smashers. I would love to be wrong, though, because all I want to do now is play the deck that has Skeletal Tri-Horned Dragon that's come back. All of you said that he was unworthy, and now he's so mad about it. Fingers crossed that future support is really, really good. We get some kind of, like, pearly, hungry, happy, draw during your opponent's standby phase memory kind of thing going on here, because I don't really think the archetype clears right now, and I don't see how it clears, honestly. I don't see what they do that puts them over the top, but I am historically terrible at knowing the power levels of archetypes, Cheers to Trihorn Dragon. Folks, Trihorn Dragon's in the chat for Trihorn. Okay, looking forward to making the explained on this one. If anyone has any brews for this deck, please tag me on Twitter. I want to see what you're coming up with on this one. I want to see what the funny Trihorn Dragon deck is capable of. Please show me the light on this one, because I would love to be wrong on this. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see all of you next time. Bye. Today's episode was brought to you in part by Dragon Shield. When you want to protect your cards with the power of dragon scales, get some sweet lore for them, and support the channel, check out my link in the description to get started. Today's episode was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander Green Knight, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Andrew Newman, A Random Pup, Avi Chali, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Danny Bound, Divine Dragon Felgrand 4123, Eric, Aaron the World Breaker, Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh, Gloomba 331, Great Big Pillock, Hairbear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Iskander 711, John, Jordan, Julius Sneezer, Mana Charge, Marluxia's a Girl, Nathan Vig, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sammy Haim, Sir Knight JCB, Skybuster Leo, Sophie, apparently, the Fresh Prince of Con Air, the Wizard Moose and Xander Wolfensberger, Cosmic Crusaders Almento 5010, Ariel Kersey, Bear Sharktopus Studios, Beluga Masta, Blue Gem, Chaz Ghost, Chris Kessler, Drachenwald, Emily, Eva Padilla, Herbal D, In the House Like Carpet, Inblink, Gesture Designs, Kale the Dragon, Carp, Kevon Public, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh, Lord Whoop-de-Doo, Manga Pages, Marion James E. Picata, Matt Simmons, Mega Combi, Michael Shimabukuro, Nadia McCarthy, Nitromo, Ruxeth Sarani, Shizuki Nijimura, Star-Lord 777, Stephen Williamson, the Legendary Raven, Tucker Ordorn, and Zal Dureka, as well as the lovely Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to be a part of these credits, get my videos early, join in on the monthly custom card review stream, and, of course, support the channel, please consider checking out the link to my Patreon in the description or becoming a YouTube member.